Thank you, everyone. And it's really nice to see so many people having turned up on a Saturday morning to listen to us who've not been on the streets protesting, but who spent most of their lives actually serving the state. Serving the state with a kind of elan, and serving it to protect its basic character. You know, when I see a lot of protests, there are protests which are misdirected. At present, we are in a state of confusion. We don't know what exactly are we protesting against. It's very important at this stage to have the clarity as to what exactly are we fighting against, or what is it that we want to preserve. When I'm talking of protecting the Constitution, what is it that I intend to protect it for? Just because it's a constitution, is it for that reason that I want to protect it? Or the Constitution is going to protect my state, that state which is gradually being taken away from me. I want to protect that state which promised for its people. I want that state to be with its people, but that state is slipping out of people's hand. I want that state to be strengthened. I want that state to be strong. Now, you may think that I am speaking Modi's language, but I am not. You know, when I was in the Navy, we were very, very clear. And I joined the Navy sometime in the 80s. And that is a time when most of our equipment was being purchased from Soviet Union. I never had an opportunity then to go to Soviet Union. But a lot of people who came back from there, they came back impressed from there. But they were not ideologically affected by whatever was being taught to them in Soviet Union. Early morning, before their classes used to begin, they used to have this kind, a news was read out to them, the Soviet news. But never did the Navy ever think of indoctrinating its own people or protecting its people from indoctrination, because there was no need to. So we were basically apolitical. When we joined the National Defence Academies, we were told that in the messes you will not talk politics. And throughout my career, I remember, we never spoke politics at all in our messes. Politics was never an issue which was discussed. But now things have changed. I find on the social media, not just the retired community, the veterans, but also if we see the serving Faujis who are openly discussing communal matters, politics, and what have you. So we are in a state, the armed forces currently is in a state of stupor. It doesn't know what has happened to it. When this government came to power, Modi started, if you remember, his campaign from Rewari, where he addressed the ex-servicemen. He began from there. And as always, he threw up a lot of jumlas, and he gave a lot of promises for one rank, one pension, and other things. So the army was with him. And again, if you see now in his 2018 campaign that he started, they've started their campaign by releasing a video of the surgical strikes. So they're using this nationalism card once again. At Rewari, he promised a lot of things, and there were a lot of Faujis who joined them. And this didn't happen now. Even if you go back in early 90s when the Ayodhya movement had started, the BJP then had incorporated about 83 or some 90 generals and had started their entire campaign with trying to incorporate this nationalist card by having the Faujis along with them. So this has been the strategy since the 90s. But once they came to power, the Faujis were surprised, because every now and then they were being attacked. They were being undermined. Their position in the polity was being degraded. OROP पे उनको छला पहले तो OROP जो दी उनको 1 rank 1 pension, वो OROP है ही नहीं, and there are a lot of Faujis who've been protesting against it. वो एक वन टाइम इंक्रीज उनको दे के बंद कर दिया गया, और ये वही सरकार है. कितने पैसे लग रहे थे उसमें? समथिंग अराउंड 8,000 crores, but they didn't give them. And the same government that has earned 10 lakh crores by managing the oil, benefits that they got of low crude oil prices. That's the kind of money they have earned. This is the government which spends 5,000 crores on propaganda, on publicity, but they don't have money to give it to their own people, to their own Faujis, whom they claim are the people who are protecting the nation. Why is it that they're not doing it? That is the exact question we have. Because they are ideologically opposed to the very fact that there is something known as pensions. It's an ideological problem. They cannot stand the word pension. They are opposed to the very idea of a welfare state. They can't think that people can be brought up through these mechanisms. In armed forces, I found a wonderful system of community. There are schools where the lowest Jawan's son will study with a general's son or an admiral's son, sit on the same bench. I never found this system anywhere else. I found an officer taking care of his men much more than anyone else in the country would do that. That system is something which this right-wing ideology wants to destroy. They've always been opposed to this particular system. And this is, for me, is state. This is what the state used to provide, is supposed to provide. And that's why I think, and I wish that the state survives. The right wing, which claims to be protecting nationalism, is actually destroying the state. It is destroying the state through propaganda, through polarization, through privatization, and all this is being done just to replace patriotism with profiteering. This is exactly what is happening within the armed forces and to the armed forces. Armed forces are being told that you go and put a pontoon Army Engineering Service was asked to put a pontoon for Shri Shri Ravi Shankar's program. Why did that happen? Why did the general who was sitting over there not say that this is not our job? Somewhere you need to stand up and say that this is not our job. And that is what is not happening. And why is that not happening? That is because we've been polarized. We've seen that polarization in Supreme Court. Forget Supreme Court. We have seen that polarization even in RAW. Recently, a former RAW chief came out with a book, and see the slander he had to face. So we have our intelligence community polarized, we have our Supreme Court polarized, we have our bureaucracy polarized, and we have now our military polarized. Therefore, when the issue of pension comes, when there are some other issues come, why is it that there is no one voice which speaks against all these issues? And that is because they have beautifully polarized the people. Within the armed forces, if one voice rises up, there are 10 to put him down. And this is happening in each and every department. This is like, typical case of Iraq war, where Shias and Sunnis were living very happily. The Americans went in, divided the Shias and Sunnis, who both are fighting with each other now, and their Halliburton is, their company is coolly taking out the oil and selling it. This is exactly what is being done to polarize the people here. They want to weaken the armed forces. And it is ideological. They think that the money which is being spent on army schools, they think that the money which is being spent on the welfare measures of the Jawans is a waste. The pension is a waste. They don't know how many people are coming up because of that system. The upward mobility which has been, which this system has ensured. When I see a cook's son, an army cook who's the lowest in the ranking system, when I see him topping the National Defence Academy exam, it is because of that system, that welfare entire system that we had created. When I see now we are protesting against these trees falling in Sarojini Nagar, these are the symbols where and the government schools surrounding that entire area. These are the systems which are created, because of which most of us have studied in those schools, have come up through those schools, and are now standing up here. That system is being destroyed. And they don't like that system within the armed forces also. We need to protect that particular system from these profiteers. Now they think, the thinking is that the ration in the armed forces, they stopped the rations. Now Modi had the audacity, and nobody speaks against this, the officers' rations in peace station. Now we've all known that the army marches on its stomach. And we've not heard any protest coming up, any strong protest coming up against this. It's not the question of rations. The basic question is that it is the system that you're destroying. There was a particular purpose for which some perks are given. And those perks are being withdrawn. Why? Just to profit the crony capitalists. The defense manufacturing, they talk a lot in terms of privatization of defense. And that privatization, mind you, is not limited to manufacturing. What is in their mind? Because Indian private sector is incapable of producing even a car today. They can't even produce a proper car, so they can't produce submarines, I am very convinced. The Indian private sector is in shambles. Why are they talking of privatization of defenses? Because they want to hand over the revenue budget of the armed forces to the private people. They want to hand over the budgets of pay and pensions. They want to ration budgets. And that is because there's a global trend to privatize the armed forces. There's a global trend happening in it, which started from the Iraq war. If Agent Orange was something which the Vietnam War had given, the Iraq war gave the privatization of military. We are now witnessing the springing up of private military companies all across the world. And when Modi goes and signs an agreement with USA on having their military bases here, what it means is their private military companies are going to come here and start earning the profits. We are not understanding this basic ideology which is at play in destroying our state. Do we want a state like that? Can we have a capitalist system? Can we have this kind of a system which is draconian, which is not democratic? If we are decided to have this particular system, then we need democracy in this, then we need a strong state for it. Then we need a strong state to ensure that religion is not exploited. We need a strong state to ensure that economics or profiteers are not given precedence over people. So we have to be very clear as to what we are fighting for and what we are fighting against. All this talk about nationalism is only to hoodwink us. This talk about using Fauji's is basically to use a smoke screen to actually carry out that kind of splintering of the national military. On one hand, you talk of removing the foreign NGOs from here. On the other hand, you have no compunctions in bringing or in giving the private military bases here. You're bringing in the US military bases into India, but you're saying that what will do more harm to India is the foreign NGOs. Now, this contradiction is something that we must fight against. We need to understand this. We are not attacking their ideology. We are reacting to them. And that ideology is not about religion. They don't want to protect religion. They don't want to protect military. They don't want to protect Hinduism. They want to protect their class. So that is their basic ideology. They were built not to protect Hinduism. They were not built to protect India. They were built to protect their class. They were erected to protect those particular profiteers. And unless and until we attack them on that, we will never win against them. You are being blamed, I am being blamed for our international connections, that we are connected internationally to the anti-national forces. Have you ever tracked the kind of international links that they have with the financial sector, international financial sectors? All the top people The international connections with the international finance of Doval's son, has anybody asked those questions? Nobody asked those questions. We are attacking them at a place where they want us to attack. We shouldn't be attacking them at that place. We need to attack them where they're the weakest. This nationalist card they have not got it. We have given them this nationalist card. We have made them nationalists by not exposing these links of theirs with the international finance. So therefore, and that international finance wants our state to be weakened. Should we allow our state to be weakened like that, is the basic question. Why should people not take back their state from the people who want it to wither away? Today, we have no privacy because all my movements, all my finances are in some private hands, or not just private hands, they're in foreign private hands. Google, Facebook, everything is gone. They weakened my state. We were an IT power, and these things have not been, why aren't these things Indian? If China could have them as their own, because they thought about it, why didn't we think about it? Because we don't want our system, we don't want India to be strong. We always want India to be subservient. These are the basics. The entire money is going away now. By having mobile money, your entire treasury is going away from you. Have you ever given a thought? The intelligence agencies from abroad don't need to come here and park themselves here. Most of your people's movements are known to them. Where you spend your money is known to them. And there is no talk about it. When Modi sits with Zuckerberg or when Modi goes to Google, we are celebrating Satya Nadella's. But we are not thinking what are they doing to us. We have not thought about having our own systems because this ideology is protecting us from thinking about India. And that is where they are the weakest, and that is where they need to be attacked. Their class connections need to be exposed. And unless and until you expose their class connections, they will keep riding this nationalist, bandwagon. They will keep exploiting nationalism. And they're doing it with a very sophisticated propaganda machine. The propaganda machine which operates, when I study Second World War and other things, the kind of propaganda machines which used to work, it's a military propaganda machine which is working. It is not an ordinary propaganda machine. They will enter your own channel. They will enter your channel and talk about you. They will carry out black propaganda mechanism use. So we are actually in a problem, but we are not understanding where exactly the problem lies. So it is very important that we develop clarity onto what is happening to us and why is it happening to us. Unless and until you ask these questions, we will never be able to find the right answers. So it has become imperative for us to indulge in some solid critical thinking. Ask questions. Don't just let them guide what you're thinking. Think differently. They want you to think on Ayodhya. Don't think. Ask them some different question. So develop this habit of asking questions and challenging them. And I'll conclude by saying that what we need to do is only one thing, that is protect our state that has enabled us to reach where we are, that will enable millions of people to reach where they are. I believe in strong state because I think that is the only potent weapon available to us at the moment to help millions of people to come out of poverty. If you do not have a strong state, if you do not have your own state with you, you will never be able to bring up people. I was born in Sarojini Nagar. I have seen in small quarters, there were schools which used to run, and those have produced top doctors today. They have produced top engineers from the government schools here. Most of the people in their 60s and 50s have studied in those government schools. And those were fantastic schools. We need to get back that system. And unless and until you fight for that system, you will not be able to protect your rights. That is the only way to ensure that maximum people come up and maximum equity is achieved. Thank you.